Are you a teacher and you worry that you can't do enough, that you're not good enough? I think so many teachers would resonate with that. I certainly would. I went around for years worrying that I would be found out for never quite knowing enough. However senior I got, it didn't matter. This week I've been talking to school staff and the common words are failure. They feel like a failure. They're lacking confidence, overwhelmed, anxious. Their brain is full. I don't know if you resonate with that. I really, really do. And I think that somehow we need to look today at the reality of school life and discover some strategies that we can put in place straight away. You can have a go and see if they help you. If those are words that you would use about yourself or perhaps some of your colleagues. There's a big word, imposter syndrome, isn't there? And I don't know if that is something we feel in school. I don't think I would ever use that word quite for myself, but feeling not good enough was certainly something. Perhaps not being able to live up to the expectations of the role, the constant extra things that I had to do, feeling a little bit insecure actually. And I would judge myself very harshly. Do you do that? I constantly felt I had to prove myself. If I let my guard down or if I didn't say yes to something, was that going to be the end for me in some way? Because I wasn't quite good enough. Someone would find out I wasn't. And if someone did tell me I was good, which frankly was rare, did I hear it? I'm not convinced I did. I think I heard the negatives. Would be better if. So I was constantly proving myself. So how to become more certain in your role? I don't know. I remember a story so well. It was quite a while back now. And everyone had gone home. I was late. I tended to work late. And the executive head came and asked me whether I had gone for the promotion that was there for deputy head of school. And I said to her, oh, no, I didn't know about that and wouldn't cross my mind to go for that sort of level of promotion. And she turned to me and she said, but Rowena, you're good. You know you're good. Well, that made me stop for a moment because I didn't know that. No one had told me that. Or if they had, I hadn't heard it. And my life was so fast that I'd never stopped to think about it, actually. I'm pretty sure I'm not on my own there. You know, I whizzed around at work, got home, rushed around the children, went to bed exhausted, got up, exhausted, started the next day. I'd never stopped to think about it. I didn't know. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what we do about this feeling of not being quite good enough that leads to burnout, having to prove ourselves, not letting our guard down, judging ourselves so harshly. And I suppose the first thing is the obvious self-compassion. It's key, isn't it? If one thing goes wrong, do you judge yourself very harshly? How do you respond if you get a difficult email? What would you say to yourself? Oh, I can't do this anymore. That's so unfair. Why did they respond to me like that? Or would you stop and take a breath and be a bit kinder to yourself? Maybe saying, hold on a minute. Is that the right way for them to respond to me? Should I get some help with that? I'm not sure that is fair. What is your self-talk like? It's so linked to our worth and our confidence. And I'm speaking to you as somebody who has a real battle with their self-talk. So it's not like I've got all the answers. It's just a journey that I'm on to watch my self-talk, because in simply watching it, it's incredibly powerful. We compare ourselves to each other, don't we? We're constantly comparing ourselves. But I've learned to compare myself today to how I was yesterday. Am I doing just a tiny bit better today than I did yesterday? Much more healthy way to compare. Is there one small thing that I've put in place today that I didn't have yesterday? Just as a bit of compassion, self-compassion for me, because I was so hard on myself. Never being quite good enough, always trying to do that bit more. Another way that I always think is just so amazing, and it's so counterintuitive to me, but in wanting to overcome this feeling of not being good enough and sort of running on empty and being drained, if you contribute something to someone else, if you serve someone else, if you help someone else, if you care for someone else, show some kindness, it's incredibly powerful, because in doing that, in giving out to someone, we actually fill up some sort of tank in ourselves And it reminds us what is important. It's not just about us and our inadequacy and our own stress, because as teachers, we tend to feel really isolated, don't we? And that's especially when we're just overwhelmed and our brain is full and we're juggling everything. And how am I going to just get through today and look at my to-do list, and people keep asking me things to do. And even if there's small things to do, there are more things to do. How do you get over that? Try helping someone else. Try offering to help someone else. I think the key story for me in my experience was when I was a really junior teacher, and I'd been, doing really quite well with some difficult classes. And then I had a class that I just couldn't get them to relate to me, to respond to me, to engage with me in the usual way. And I didn't know what to do. I was losing my creativity, my energy. I was really, really quite desperate, actually. And after school one day, I was walking past a colleague's classroom, and she was much older than me, very experienced, very good teacher. And honestly, I was a little bit scared of her, I think. But she had her hands in her head, and she was just looking down at the desk, or her head in her hands even. And so I went in and I just said, "Are you all right? Can I get you a cup of tea or anything?" Basically, she just said to me, no, life was not okay. Really not okay. She had all this stuff going on at home, and she had all these things to do in her classroom. She wasn't ready for tomorrow. What was she going to do? So I offered to help. And, it took me about half an hour. But off she went home. The impact of that for me was that I realized it wasn't only me who was struggling. And it took me out of my stuff, my baggage, my feelings of failure. And in serving and helping someone else, I had a much better relationship with that teacher going forward. And actually, she was so kind to me going forward. It was amazing. It built a little bit of a bridge. But I suppose it gave me a sense of my value, because I could help someone else who looked like generally they had life sorted. I wonder if any of us actually have life sorted. Do we really? I'm not sure I ever have. But in helping someone else, the response in our body, our mind, our heart is profound. It was energizing for me. It gave me determination and hope again. Crazy, but true. Worth a try, huh? And the last point I want to suggest in this journey is for you to start watching where you're using your really valued strengths. So if I said to you today, what are your core strengths? What are your main strengths that you use in your job? Do you know what they are? So I was speaking to a teacher recently, and she said to me that it was her creativity that just brought out the best in her. And one of the things that was really a struggle for her is that she didn't have time to prepare the creative lessons that she wanted every week. But actually, she'd learned that to be creative, really creative in one lesson a day, her strength and the beauty she found in herself as she was creative was enough. And then she could just do the rest of the lessons for that day good. But they didn't have that burst of creativity that was her genius, if you like. And that way she could cope better. Because what she'd been trying to do is use this strength of hers, this beautiful creativity, for every single lesson of every week. And she was burning out. Can't do it, right? So we need to watch, where do we find flow, and make sure that it is in every day. Do you know where you find that flow? When you're using your core competency, your real super strength. What is it for you? If you're not sure, have a look back at last week and think, where in my week did I have a really brilliant hour? And what was it about that hour? Was it connecting and feedback and communication? Was it that sort of strength? Was it because you went and helped a colleague who needed some support? What is your strength? Is it problem solving? What is it? There are so many. You can Google them, actually. But if you can find a way of using those strengths that you really value every day, it's incredibly energizing. You go into what research calls flow, a state of flow or flourishing or even thriving. And that's what we want, right? And, life is tough. We're not going to thrive all day, every day. But if we can spot moments of thriving, flowing, flourishing each day and internalize it, watch for it, be intentional about it, make sure it happens for you, it's amazing. And a knock-on of this is to ask your colleagues that you work with closely, what strengths do they see in you that you're using? And you can do the same for them. It's really amazing how you'll see what people appreciate about you. I always remember, for me, it was problem solving. I didn't realize I was a good problem solver, but that's what a lot of people, when I did this as a staff training, said they appreciated about me, was integrity, problem solving, and joy, interestingly. I thought I was burning out and really drained and struggling, but I suppose I was trying so hard to be energetic and joyful because I loved it. That wasn't difficult, but it came at a real expense for me because I hadn't been internalizing where I was using my strength and almost logging it for myself, because that's where you get the benefit of it. It's so exciting. Self-awareness is amazing because as you become more self-aware, you can take the wins so much more easily because you are good enough. If you're in school and if you're a teacher and you watch those children, whether they're 18 or 4 or 11, what response do they have to you where you give them this extraordinary gift of learning and being excited about discovering more things, building relationships with each other, learning new skills, all the different things that we do? You contribute such a lot. And in just recognizing that, some element of burnout starts to lift off your shoulders. I'm not saying it's one solution is going to meet all your needs. One of the big responses I've had recently from teachers is, we feel so isolated. We're struggling and we feel so isolated. No one gets it, or I don't dare tell my colleagues because I feel such a failure. Come into the Facebook group, Preventing Teacher Burnout. Share, join, it's a safe place. Because I get it. We all get it. It's amazing how many of us are putting on a facade of coping. Underneath, we're struggling. So we need each other. We're stronger together. So in summary, if you're struggling with not feeling good enough, burnout, overwhelm, lacking confidence, whatever words you would use for you, try a bit of self-compassion. Contribute something to others around you and use your strengths. See what happens. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.